You ever noticed how a single event, happening 93 million miles away on the sun, can set off this huge storm of confusing and sometimes totally contradictory information right here online? Well, let's break down a recent one because it is the perfect example of what happens when hard science crashes into social media.
So it all kicked off with posts just like this one. I bet you saw it. It's on the way. Most powerful solar radiation storm in over 20 years. All promising this once-in-decade spectacle of amazing auroras. Now, this is the kind of stuff that gets shared like wildfire, right? It's exciting, but also makes you a little nervous. So what was really going on behind all the hype?
All right, so where did that viral post even come from? Well, it turns out it wasn't just pulled from thin air. It was actually based on a real and pretty significant alert from the official scientific agencies that watch the sun. Okay, so it all started here. On January 18th, the sun just let loose this massive, long-lasting X 1.9 class solar flare. You can think of it like a giant magnetic explosion on the sun's surface, just blasting out a ton of energy. But that flare, that was really just the opening act. It also launched what we call a coronal mass ejection, or a CME. This is a huge cloud of solar plasma and magnetic fields that gets hurled out into space. And this one was what they call a full halo CME, which is basically a fancy way of saying it was aimed, you guessed it, directly at us. And this is what the official alert actually looked like. NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center put out an S4, or Severe Solar Radiation Storm Alert. And just to give you some context, we haven't seen a radiation storm this powerful since the famous Halloween storms way back in 2003. They also issued a watch for a G4 severe geomagnetic storm. This was the real deal. So with all these severe warnings flying around, what was the main thing the average person was supposed to expect? Well, basically, a really, really incredible light show. The idea was that when this CME slammed into Earth's magnetic field, it was going to supercharge the northern lights, making them visible way farther south than usual. But, and here's where things get interesting, at the exact same time that the official science explanation was making the rounds, a totally different theories started bubbling up online. And this one had nothing to do with the sun's magnetism and everything to do with the planets. This alternate model comes from a guy named Jukka Savarinen, who, and I'm quoting here, describes himself as the man who figured out how the universe really works. And his theory gives a radically different reason for what's making the sun act up and causing all these events on Earth.
So his core idea is this thing he calls dark energy activation. In this model, forget everything about the sun's internal magnetic engine causing flares. Instead, he says it's the alignment of the planets that activates this energy, and that's what triggers all the crazy phenomena on both the sun and here on Earth.
And he gets super specific about it. He points to this series of alignments in early January, all building up to this five-body lineup: Jupiter, Earth, the Sun, Venus, and Mars, which he calls a super alignment. And to back this all up, he looks at past alignments. You can see it here. He connects an alignment in 1936 to eruptions that happened pretty much right away. Then he points to 2003 and says that alignment led to a long delay in effects. So following his own pattern, he predicts that the 2026 alignment is going to cause a double activation, triggering some things right away and other things later on. And here is the biggest difference from the NOAA forecast. Remember, they were focused on auroras. This model predicts a much, much wider range of disasters here on Earth. We're talking wild heat waves, huge floods, extreme snowstorms, rare tornadoes, and even the activation of volcanoes and earthquakes. It's a whole different level of prediction. So there you have it, two completely different stories trying to explain the exact same event. Let's dig into how these two narratives really clash online and create such a confusing mess for everyone. This side-by-side really puts it all in focus, doesn't it? On one side, you have the established scientific view. A magnetic event on the sun causes auroras here on Earth. Pretty straightforward. On the other side, you have this completely different model. Planetary alignments are the cause, and the effect is widespread chaos on Earth. They couldn't be more different. And this is exactly what it looks like when you're scrolling through your feed. You see a polished, official-looking graphic warning you about a solar storm, and then right below it, you see a crude meme that claims solar flares aren't even real because the sun is not a ball of fire. It's just an absolute whirlwind of conflicting signals. And you know, this really gets to the heart of it. This alternative view isn't just a different weather forecast. By claiming things like Einstein was wrong and there's no space-time, it's basically proposing a fundamental rewrite of physics as we know it. This isn't just a small disagreement, it's a completely different song.
So, what does all of this mean for us, the people who are just trying to make sense of the world through our screens? How in the world are we supposed to navigate this kind of information storm?
I mean, this is the core challenge, right? We're constantly faced with these competing explanations. On one side, you have established science, and on the other, you have an individual proposing a really radical new theory. Learning to tell the difference, that's not just some abstract skill anymore. It's something we have to do every single day. Ultimately, I think this whole thing shows that when a massive eruption happens 93 million miles away, the real storm, the one that really hits us, might just be the one it creates in our information feeds. And it forces us all to ask, in the middle of that digital storm, are we actually looking for the truth, or are we just looking for the most exciting story?